So a lot of you mentioned a lot of organisations had lost trust, and the question is, how do they rebuild the trust, and can they ever do that? Can you get back to the level of trust you once had?
So I'm going to start by saying it's really hard to do. This is going to be quite a long answer, but I think it's a really important question. So there's two parts to this. Trust's sister, or trustworthiness' sister, isn't transparency, it's reputation. So the sum of those traits, what people think of you, is your reputation. And if you think about it, your reputation is made up of the capability and the character, and then the narrative that forms around these things. When there's a trust crisis, that character piece really wobbles, right? That's the piece that falls down. And one of the common mistakes you see companies come out is that they focus, like they're still really competent and they still have really good products and services, and they don't focus enough that this is all about character building. Like that's when the narrative is focused. The second thing is there is a process that companies can go through, and it really comes down to a few steps. The first step is how you respond. Now, I don't know about you, but companies, I think they often think they have too much time. So think of Dreamworld, think of Facebook 5 days, think of Cambridge, we keep going, right? In that space, the narrative will form for you. So this idea, and you get it, right? If you're in a leadership team or a board, you get there's legal advisors in there and you're trying to figure out what to say. You have to say something. You have to respond. So how you respond. The second thing is ownership. And I spoke really briefly about this, but don't come out with any statement of denial. I know it's really hard to balance what's true and not true, but denying things or saying that this was an anomaly or we don't know how it happened, terrible for trust. The third step, which again companies often get wrong, is empathy. So don't talk about the hard stuff that happened. There was an oil leak, there was a data leak, we screwed, whatever it was, right? You have to show empathy for the human consequence of what you've done. And companies struggle even through those first three steps. Yep. And there you're still even trying to get to a baseline of trust. Trust can go over that sort of watermark if you get to that place of accountability and assurance. So people have to be assured that it won't go wrong again. So I say all of that, and in many industries, that's really important. So for banking, this is critical that we actually get to that place of accountability and assurance. What's really interesting to me is that if you've been following the Facebook share price, it's back up to where it was.
Well, that's quite interesting, isn't it? Because we see the initial dip, and then you see it rebuild, and that's the same with the banking institutions and some of the other issues that we've seen. Why is that?
That's not a restoration of trust. So if you look, so the share price might be up, but 81% of people say they don't trust Facebook when it comes to privacy and surveillance. So it's because they're locked in. They're locked in by network effects.
The convenience versus trust balance.
The convenience trust. So I personally believe, though, user forgiveness has its limits. And when there's a viable alternative and you can jump, Facebook will be in trouble. And so you've seen this with Uber. We don't have a competitor, and this is why regulation is so important for this. In the States, they have Lyft. And when all these cultural issues were going on with Lyft and there was a systemic breakdown of trust, within a 3-month period, they lost 22% of the market to Lyft because there was a viable competitor.